Hey guys, it's Professor Cruz again, and I just wanted to come on here and make another quick video for you guys to kind of show you through Module 3, what the expectations are for the assignment, give you a little bit of information that's going to help you with the assignment, and then talk about some other things that I'm kind of seeing on the assignment submissions so far that we want to kind of be careful about. So let me go ahead and share my screen here for you guys. And we're taking a look. We got the module now in front of us. Okay. And so what I have here for you guys is, the kind of plan I think works best for going through this module. You can follow the little roadmap here, read the chapter, take the quiz, watch the faculty videos, complete your Module 3 Dropbox assignment, do your discussion post. Make sure you do both of those by Friday night, those submissions, to get full credit. And then by the end of the week, Sunday, you're going to need to do your reply posts. So as we go through the module, it kind of looks like our typical thing. We got the Chapter 3 Smart Book quiz that's due on March 3rd, 11:59 p.m. This one has 29 concepts, and they estimate it's going to take you about 52 minutes to complete. So make sure you plan accordingly for that. Make sure you're keeping up with these quizzes. Remember, they are 15 points apiece. So that's like 1.5% your overall grade for each of these. And they're completion based. You just have to get to the end and you'll get your full points. So make sure you're taking full advantage of that. I would recommend going in here and watching the video links from our faculty members that have the videos that give some more complete look at the information for this module that's important. And then before you start your assignment, I would definitely recommend looking at the discussion post rubric. You guys have all got your feedback for Module 1, so you see how I kind of do this with the discussion posts. I fill out that rubric and I put it in your feedback where it talks about what I need you to work on for the next time, what was good, what was bad, where you lost points, etc. And then, so use that as a guide. You don't need to put this one on the assignment like you did last week. Essentially, the way it's going to work is when you do a Dropbox discussion assignment, when it's the 2, I'm just going to fill this out and put it on there. Kind of a little easier on the grading because you have to get that done by Friday. And then your Dropbox only assignments that are due on Sunday nights, I'm going to fill out a little more feedback directly on the assignment and then upload that file to your feedback section. And that's why I fill out the rubric there on there, because I actually fill it out on my iPad, so I can write on the paper, but I can't add a page to it, right? So that's why I have you guys submit it for me. It'll make sense when you look at your Module 2 feedback. So you don't need to submit the rubric this week. You just need to kind of use it as a guide to know how I'm going to grade your assignment. Now, when we look at this week's assignment, it's a 3-part assignment that I want you to create in full APA format. So we're going to have a title page, we're going to have a reference page, and then we're going to have, a middle part. I would prefer you not to number it. I would actually like to see headings, maybe like syllogism, fallacy, reflection, etc. But that's what you're going to do here. Way it's going to work out is in the first part of the assignment, you need to create a logical syllogism as why somebody should not cheat. And then you need to tell me if that is a cogent inductive or a sound deductive. It shows you, the syllogism layout here, premise, conclusion, right? So definitely want to follow that format. You can see that format in the textbook. But if you bear with me here and follow me through to this video, after I explain the assignment, I'll actually run through some PowerPoint slides I have that explain this, that I usually use my face-to-face class. I think that'll help you out a little bit. And then the next part, you're going to do the fallacy part, where in the first section, you're writing an argument about why cheating is bad. In the second part, you're going to write an illogical fallacy that would try to justify cheating, okay? And so we know the illogical fallacies, from when we read the chapter here, you'll see that they are illogical arguments that seem logical at first, though. And that's why a lot of times people can kind of get away with using them, is they sound like a good argument, but when you really pick at it, you'll see that they're not really logically sound. So we want to see your ability to, be able to create one, I guess, because if you can create one, then you can spot them, if that makes sense. So what you're going to do in this section, you're going to name the fallacy that you're using, and then you're going to define it. Now, as it says here, this definition is not to be directly quoted. I want you to paraphrase it and then provide an in-text citation. These are two things a lot of us in the class really need to work on. A lot of people had direct quotes in the first assignment, even though it specifically says do not use direct quotes. So if you're thinking about 5 or more words in the exact same order as the author, that's a direct quote, and you're going to lose points for that. I do not want to use direct quotes in this class. I want you to paraphrase, because it shows your ability to kind of process and synthesize this information. I don't want you to tell me what Manus and Monroe say about logical fallacies. We can all read that for ourselves. I want to see you define it in your words and in your voice, and then just cite to give them credit. And again, the reason why you do that with a paraphrase is even though it's your words, it's their idea. So you cite them for the idea, but you put it in your words. Please work on that paraphrasing. If you're not super comfortable with it, you can reach out and ask me about paraphrasing, or I'd recommend seeing a writing tutor that can help you with that, okay? But what you're going to do after you define the fallacy, and you can pick any one that you want to use that's listed in the chapter, you're then going to make an example, okay? So obviously you're not going to use the example that's here in the assignment. You're going to make your own, okay? So I will say, don't use this 2 wrongs makes a right, because you could literally just copy off here. So I don't want you to do that. Pick a different one, but you can see how they've got the 2 wrongs makes a right kind of defined here. And then there's an example, of what that would look like, okay? So once you've created your syllogism, and then you've created your fallacy, then you're going to do a reflection and one well-written paragraph. Just discuss, the knowledge of logic and fallacies and how they can help you in your career and your life, okay? You're going to title this assignment the same that you're going to title your discussion post, which you'll see down in the other part, okay? Make sure you go through this checklist. When you can answer yes to all of these, you're ready to submit. Many people in the first assignment have missed a number of these things, and that's everything you miss is going to cost you points. So make sure you don't lose points because you didn't fully meet the expectations of the assignment. Okay? Then once you get that finished, you're going to put it on the discussion board like you did before. You're going to copy and you're going to paste. You're going to start a new thread. You're going to title your thread appropriately. And then before 11:59 p.m. Sunday, you're going to reply to one of your classmates. And this is 50 words minimum. It's probably going to be a little bit more than that, because I want you to comment on all 3 aspects of their post: the syllogism, the fallacy, and their reflection. And again, some feedback that a lot of you saw in the first assignment. I want you to, develop some depth, build some substance in these reply posts. Don't just say, oh, good, or that's great, or I totally agree with you. Tell them why you agree. You're also allowed to disagree and tell them why in a respectful academic manner. But what I want us to have a conversation, it's not just about, oh, you did a fantastic job with this, and then get your points. I give 5 points for the reply post, and I will deduct points if you're not giving me a post of substance. The idea is, since you guys are online students and you're never going to see each other in a classroom like we would face to face, we're trying to get you to interact and have discussions with one another, so you're not totally doing this class in a silo, okay? So you want to make sure that you're putting some good effort into that. As it says, to receive credit, your initial post has to be up by Friday, and your reply post must be up by Sunday. If you miss those deadlines, you're not going to get credit. You also have to make sure, as I put here, that you submit it to the Dropbox and the discussion board by 11:59 p.m. Friday to receive credit. If you miss one of those submissions, you're not going to get credit because it's two parts of the same submission. You put it in the Dropbox for me to grade and run through, turn it in for the similarity report, and then you put it on the discussion board for your classmates to read and respond to. If either of those are missing, it's like it never was posted because you need to do both. So please be sure to do that. I think most of us did well with that on the first assignment, but typically it goes that when I stop reminding you is when people stop doing it. So I'm just going to keep repeating it. We have a number of these assignments we're going to do throughout the semester, and they're always going to be that same expectation, okay? So if you have any questions about the assignment throughout the week, please feel free to reach out and ask me about it, and I'll give you some explanation. But what I want to do real quick now is kind of run through the content of arguments for you guys a little bit to kind of help with that. So if you give me a second here, I'm going to load up my PowerPoint slides, and I've got two screens here, and I have to kind of figure out which screen is being shared right now. So let me do a new share. I think I want this one. I'll share that. Okay, because I think that'll look a little bit better. So hopefully this is sharing the way I want it to. But essentially what we have here, we have two types of arguments that it talks about in the chapter. It's deductive and inductive, and it's basically structuring an argument based off the information that we have available, and sometimes we have different availability of information, if you will, which will determine the kind of argument we're going to try to create. The first one we're going to talk about is deductive arguments, and with a deductive argument, you have a fixed and formal structure. The premises and the conclusion must interrelate. As you'll see in the textbook, the premises are the points that you're starting off with, and the conclusion is the claim that you're trying to make. And in a deductive argument, your premises have to relate to the conclusion to prove it. And when they have that relationship, we say it follows form. When deductive arguments are properly structured, they are truth preserving. So the point of a deductive argument is to preserve a truth, okay? You'll see some examples in a minute, and then I'll make a little bit more sense. When deductive arguments preserve that truth and follow that form, we typically say that they're sound, right? And so the fact that they're truth preserving determines their force, and the force is, again, just the soundness, if you will, of the argument, okay? So the most common form of a deductive argument is a syllogism, and that's what you're being asked to create for your assignment this week. And the syllogism has that rigid structure, okay? Premise A, premise one, premise two, and a conclusion. Now, premise one is a rule statement. And this is something that's an understood rule that we know to be true. Premise two is going to be a fact statement, and that should be pretty obvious in its name that it's a fact, okay? And then when we combine this rule and this fact, we come to a conclusion that preserves that truth. And the structure of this is like this. All A is B, and then C is A, and then C is B. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect three elements together. All A is B, C is A, C is B. And you can see there on the parentheses, we go from general to specific because we're building up to a very specific claim, okay? So, an example from your textbook, all dogs are mammals. Heidi is a dog, therefore Heidi is a mammal. Okay, we know that dogs are mammals because they feed their offspring with milk that they create from their mammary glands. If we trust that this thing we're calling Heidi is a dog, we know that logically Heidi then is a mammal because dogs are mammals. And so this is what we call sound. It follows the form, the structure, and it creates a truth-preserving syllogism. Now, you'll also see in the chapter, we try to create moral syllogisms as well. We try to use this structure to make a moral syllogism to preserve a moral truth. So an example from the book is all killing is wrong. Capital punishment is a killing. Therefore, capital punishment is wrong. Now, as you're seeing this, and as I'm saying it, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, not all killing is wrong. This is what starts to become problematic when we try to use this syllogism structure to preserve a moral truth. Everybody has to be on board with this moral fact statement, all killing is wrong, which you're not going to get a lot of people to agree with, because that would mean like killing for self-defense is wrong. And a lot of people aren't necessarily going to agree with that statement. So it's not as truth preserving as the other, but we kind of like the structure of it and we try to build up to it. And as long as we do believe in that moral rule, then it's a pretty solid structure, but it's not as sound as something like clearly connecting dogs to mammals, right? And sometimes you get a situation where it looks good at first blush, but it's not really what it's intended to be in this format. So like, look at this one. All birds can fly. Penguins are birds. Therefore, penguins can fly. Well, we know this isn't to be true, right? And the problem is penguins are birds. That fact statement is correct, but our rule is incorrect, because we cannot say all birds can fly when we know that there are flightless birds. So this follows the structure of the syllogism, but we would call it unsound because it's not preserving a truth as we know it to be, right? And the next kind of argument is inductive arguments, and this is different from deductive, and you need to understand the difference because you're being asked to write a deductive syllogism, not an inductive argument. Inductive is kind of backwards from the deductive, okay? So inductive arguments do not conform to the same formulaic structure. The premises need only relate to the conclusion. So in a syllogism, our premises interrelate, but in this inductive argument, they just relate to the conclusion, but not necessarily to each other. And the premises don't need to be relevant to each other, just a conclusion. So essentially, we got to keep that in mind, that as long as the premise gets to a conclusion, we're using this inductive method, okay? They're not truth preserving because of that interrelationship isn't there. We're not saying they're preserving a truth. At best, they're probably likely true, which I know kind of sounds weird, but they say probably likely or probably true. It's the best we can claim we can make on inductive arguments. So it is different because in the deductive reasoning, we're taking facts that we know to interrelate to make a conclusion. And then inductive argument, we're just saying, well, this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing happened, so we're probably going to see this thing happen. And the example they use in the textbook is this enumerative induction. You know, you look at the different premises here. Mars is spherical, Venus is spherical, Earth is spherical, despite what some people think, right? Mercury is spherical, Neptune is spherical. So our conclusion is all planets are probably spherical. Now, I always get some pushback from students on this because, like, oh, we know planets are round. Yes, we know that all the planets we've observed are round. However, we also know that there are as many or more planets out there that we haven't observed. So we literally don't have all the information. So we can't make the claim that all of them are spherical until we've seen them all. So the best we can claim is that they're probably spherical, okay? And we're pretty confident in this because, again, all the ones we've seen are spherical. But again, at best we can do is call it an inductive argument because, again, we don't have all the evidence. So another example of an inductive argument here can show where they become problematic and why they don't preserve truths. Like, let's say we have this example here where it says my dad is a fireman, my mom's dad is a fireman, my cousin's dad is a fireman, my best friend's dad is a fireman, therefore all dads are probably firemen. Now, many of you are probably watching this video thinking, well, my dad's not a fireman, and that's exactly why this is not that same strength as a deductive. My own dad's not even a fireman. I just use this as an example. So all these premises are true. All these people can be firemen. But if you can find one dad that isn't a fireman, which we know is logical, it already starts to chip away at the strength of this. And the more that you find, more dads that you find that aren't firemen, the more we know that this is not probably likely in all cases, and therefore we call this weak. This is a weak inductive argument because while all the premises are true, the conclusion cannot be supported logically. Okay, so the other one with the planets, we call that a strong inductive argument because we have more faith in the claim it's making. This one will know it's weak. And again, the difference between these two forms of arguments are that deductive arguments go from general to specific, and inductive go from specific to general. Okay, so that's the big difference between the two of them. Now, what we have here is we have this flow chart, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you, but it's a good way to kind of evaluate your argument's strength or validity, because you'll see in the chapter that there's different terminology that we use for the different arguments. So, for example, you're using a deductive argument in your assignment this week, and we see that deductives could either be valid or invalid. And that goes off of like the setup itself. So if the setup follows the correct form, that we know that's valid, right? If it doesn't, we know it's invalid. If it's invalid, it's unsound. We can't have a sound argument that has invalid structure, okay? So when we have valid structure, then we go sound and unsound. And we're looking for sound. We want valid and sound to be a good deductive argument. So you'll see here that valid, and all premises are true, we call that sound. So think back to Heidi and the dogs. The premises are true because dogs are mammals and Heidi's a dog. So that makes the conclusion true. So we have a valid structure with a sound conclusion, and that's how we call that a valid and sound argument. The penguins one was valid in the structure but unsound in the claims because all the premises weren't true. You see, and so that's how we evaluated our deductive argument, which is part of your assignment. And then in the other case, we have the inductive argument, and those are going to be strong or weak. And we showed an example of each. We know that the structure of the planet one was strong because we know that those are facts that we all accept, that all those planets that I mentioned were indeed spherical, right? So then we're looking at cogent or uncogent. So if it's strong and all the premises are true, we have a cogent argument. So the best we can hope for an inductive argument would be strong and cogent. Okay, and then we can have weak structure and uncogent. Means we don't like it. Okay, you can have a strong structure but an uncogent when the premises start to fall apart. A good example, like talked about in class with a student one time, think about my penguins that we had for the deductive argument, where they were saying, we said that, all birds can fly, penguins are birds, penguins can fly. And he said, well, what if, you grew up in the city and every bird you saw flew, you would think that all birds could fly. And I said, you're actually right. And that's basically what an inductive argument is. It's taking the information that you have at hand and making an assumption on it. But as you gain more information, that assumption, might become incorrect. So if you're a little kid and you're walking around the city and you say, oh, there's a dove and it flies. Oh, and there's a crow and it flies. And oh, there's an owl and it flies. Oh, and there's a pigeon and it flies. And you think to yourself, well, I guess all birds fly. And until you learn about all the flightless birds that are out there, you would think that flight is an inherent property of birds and therefore that all birds could fly. And so when you saw an ostrich not flying, you'd be confused, right? And so that's why the inductive arguments aren't strong, because new information can throw off, the claim. But in the deductive arguments, we know that the fact statement and the rule statements are true, and therefore the conclusion is true. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys a little bit there as it comes to the assignment, because that's what we're gonna be doing this week. And you can use this flow chart on this video. I just Googled it, so you can find it if you want to. But you can use this flow chart on this video to kind of help test you know, the validity and soundness of your own argument that you write. Okay. And now I just want to stop sharing here for a second. And I'm going to go back to the course. Okay. Share. Thanks for bearing with me here. All right. Okay. And so once you get that done, submit it to the Dropbox, copy paste it to the discussion board, do your reply post at the end of the week, and you're ready to go. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. Some continuing issues we have are with the APA formatting. You guys need to continue to work on that. I know it's hard, and I'm going to press you. I'm going to press you more in your feedback in an online course, because I don't get to see you guys face to face. I don't get to you know, have these constant conversations with you. I can't pull you aside after class. The very nature of an online course is you have to be more motivated than any other modality of the course, because you've got to do a lot of this on your own, or at least initiate a lot of the learning experience on your own. There's not much I can do for you if you don't answer my emails, read my feedback, or use the resources that I put in the class. So I have to keep kind of pressing you guys through the grading book to see if I can get you to respond to what I need you to do. Keep in mind, I want you to keep using these resources in here to help you build the reference citations and the in-text citations. I'll talk about where an issue's coming from that momentarily. But please use these resources. Use this one for the paper. If you've never used APA before, watch this PowerPoint presentation. It'll help you out a lot. A lot of you are having issues with paraphrasing. It literally talks about paraphrasing on this sheet. Okay. The difference between direct quoting and paraphrasing. So definitely use that to help you with your assignments. Okay. Remember that we have a course librarian built right into our course here with Jonty Joy. You can reach out to her. You can ask her for help. Okay. And also on your course homepage, you'll see that we have a library and tutoring tab, and you can get tutoring services. Common misconception for online students is that they think they don't have access to any help. You can do online tutoring. We have availability usually from somewhere around 8 or 9 in the morning, all the way up until 8 o'clock at night. So if you go on here and you want to see a writing tutor to talk about, you know, your formatting issues, your citation issues, paraphrasing issues, you come on here and you can see all the stuff's available. We have people available Sundays. We have people available all week. I mean, these are all, like on Monday, this is all the availability you have to meet with somebody online. You'll meet them in Zoom. When you book the appointment, it sends you a link. All you have to do is be on Zoom during that link. I mean, really, I know a lot of you guys are online because you're busy, because you're not in the area. But I mean, everybody's got a half hour somewhere. Like if you don't have a half hour somewhere in your day at any day in the week to get a little extra help, you're going to find a hard time being successful at some of these things in college. So you definitely need to make the time in your schedule to get that help. Because as I've said before, my grading expectation increases each week. So like in the first assignment, I was taking off like half points for stuff. Then I'm gonna start taking full points, and eventually they'll get to the point where I'm taking whole categories off if you're not improving. And, you know, needless to say, the first time I take all 5 of your APA points away, the next time I see it, you're all of a sudden an APA master. And I hate to have to go that far to get the response, but part of the idea here is I'm trying to teach you guys a skill that you're absolutely going to need for many more classes than my own. And so I want to make sure that you're learning this stuff as you go and building that skill as a student. Okay. So definitely use this. When it's about the writing, you can see a writing tutor. They can help you with citing and paraphrasing, so can a librarian. Librarians don't look at your paper for the writing components like the commas and sentence structure stuff, but we do look at the research elements. You can see me, your professor. I work as a librarian. So you can come here on research and click my name, and you can have me check the in-text citations, the reference citations, give you some help before you submit it. I mean, I've got stuff all week long where you guys can see me online. You're allowed to use me. It's a separate role. Like, you can use me to help with your assignments, which I know is kind of weird, but who better to look at the APA than the person who's going to mark off whether or not you did it. So feel free to make appointments with me. Now, just remember, this isn't like office hours. You can't book this and then just talk randomly about the class. That's what email and stuff is for. But if you want me to look at your reference citations, in-text citations, talk to you about paraphrasing, direct quoting, stuff like that, that's certainly something that's in the realm of what I do as a reference and instruction librarian. So please feel free to make that appointment. If you want to see Joy, our embedded course tutor, she's right there as well too. Okay. And that's all available online to you guys. Okay. Just pick the day and the time and you're ready to go. Some of you may be close to campus if you prefer that kind of help. I know sometimes we just have online classes because it fits the schedule or whatever. Feel free to pop into one of the campuses, come see us in the library, make that appointment. We can work face to face. It's up to you, but I'm going to constantly encourage you to get that extra help and not work in your own little silo online at home by yourself when you're struggling. If you're doing fine, that's great. But if you're struggling, I'm here to help you with that. So hopefully you take advantage of this video. I know not everybody's been watching them, and that is what it is. But hopefully the people that have been watching them have been finding these useful and helpful for the assignments. I'll continue to do them for those students that are finding benefit in them. So watch this as many times as you need to. Get your assignment done, get it turned in, and then get ready to go for the next week. Because next week, we're actually going to start our 4-week critical thinking process. It's going to be 4 assignments that are interrelated. So it's really important to make sure that we do all of those each week and that we do them right, because they kind of depend on each other. And I'll have a big intro to that on next week's video. But that's a process that you're going to want to keep up with as well. Please use your feedback that I give you on your assignments to make each assignment better. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If not, just have a great and productive week, and I'll check in with you next week on another video. Okay, I'll talk to you all later.